You both working very transparent and talking about your prior marriages. Did either of you have reservations about getting remarried? Because there is a stigma within the church that Christians should not remarry after a divorce.
Yeah, um, I mean, for me, it wasn't a struggle for other people remarrying. My concern was because of my calling, what are people, are people going to be less open to my ministry if I
Mhm.
remarry? It's actually turned out they were more open to my ministry than I was when I was single. But anyway, um, that some things are really weird. People talk certain things, but then they don't act the same way.
Mhm.
Um, but most people, I think most Christians today recognize there are certain biblical exceptions.
Mhm.
Like if the other person runs off with somebody else, I mean, yeah, we both did have that. I
Yeah,
mean, we both
yeah.
had the biblical exceptions. Plus, her first husband strangled her,
Mhm.
um, abused her in other ways,
Mhm.
abandoned her finally,
Yeah.
threatened to kill her. Um, and my first wife did not abuse me, but I mean, she did run off with her friend's husband, um, and yeah, it was so sad. And then yeah, left, and I fought I fought the divorce for 2 years, hoping she'd come back. But
Mhm.
what that gave me reservations about also was like, am I lovable? Can
Mhm.
anybody put up with me? Because I mean, some of the things she said before she left was that I was ugly and fat, and um, the fat part I could refute. That was the,
I
but
was gonna say it doesn't seem like you've ever been a a heavy guy.
no, I mean, I did. Uh, Actually, when Medina and I got married, I think I was up to 180 something, but I'm in the 150s now, and
And
was
you're
in
tall, right?
5'11". Yeah,
Oh, you're 5'11", okay.
yeah. Oh, okay, not so tall, but anyway, uh, uh, I'm not sitting up straight. Let me sit up straight a little bit. Um, but yeah, it was really painful, and it took me a long time to work through it. We actually had different reactions. I mean, she was happy to get out of hers. I was really sad to get out of mine.
Mhm.
He had tried to kill her and stuff,
Yeah.
and so I really loved my first wife. But you can only do what you can do, and yeah, and I did understand what the scripture said about it, but because I was in the situation myself, I checked double, double, double sure. And
Mhm.
actually, that was one of my first books. It's not as well written. Actually, it was my first book. It's not as well written. I didn't have much writing practice back then, but just dealing with what the New Testament says about divorce and remarriage, partly because I had to work through it myself.
I wish churches would talk more about that because it just seems like the thing is just don't get divorced by any means necessary, just stay together. But there are legitimate reasons where people can leave. I know some women do feel like even if they are being abused, that they have to stay there when that's not the case.
Yeah, the yeah. I think the biblical principle is don't break up your marriage. But
Mhm.
if your marriage is broken up against your will, then you're not held responsible for that. And the explicit biblical exceptions, Matthew 5:32 and 19:9, adultery, and then 1 Corinthians 7:15, abandonment. And
Mhm.
actually, when Paul says the believer is not under bondage in such cases, that's the exact language of ancient divorce contracts for freedom to remarry. But I think we could add a third A in there besides adultery and abandonment, and that would be abuse.
Mhm.
Because that, I mean, it certainly it certainly seems analogous to the other two in terms of breaking the marriage covenant.